Okay, so here we're going to begin talking about this is Bitcoin dominance. I'm going to show you some cool things that are present in the real world where you can actually see fractals, which is just nature, like a rose or something that has a reoccurring pattern. And you can find it within mathematics and geometry, like the shapes of triangles, where you could do things like this. And so it's called a Mandelbrot set. You've seen it in snowflakes. It's reoccurring patterns. I consider it the spiral of the cosmos, um, macro and micro size things. So when we're looking at a human emotion on price charts, when we're seeing this, we can actually see sets that move that create the tops and then a bottom and then a top. And what is essentially forming here is a triangle, a head and a shoulder. So this would be the head, and the side of the triangle would be the shoulders. So it came up, it formed a head and a shoulders because the top of this one would be the left shoulder. This bar in the middle, if we zoom in, it clearly the wick up top. Let's try to zoom in here. This wick went up higher, and I hold it off to the side so that you can just see the line from the cursor. Went up above, and then the right shoulder came in below. So it doesn't have to be a perfect head and shoulders, but this indicator that I have enabled right here shows the head and shoulders pattern. So now we can expect that a bottom head and shoulders will now need to form, which would be the shape of a V, and this would be the shape of, you could call them M's. So we have M's that are bearish that knock it down, and we have W's. W's are boom, like a little Nike checkpoint. You want the left side of the W to be higher up so that it gets kicked up. Okay, so I hope that that makes some sense. Let's go ahead and take a look. Let's see a little bit of a back out point. So even though that this is a small, we are actually looking at 1 minute on the Bitcoin dominance chart. We can easily go out. We're going to look at the weekly chart. This is a more comprehensible, more emotionally stable chart for somebody to actually try to trade. And we can see that in the chunks of a week, each one bar represents a week. We can see moving a little bit slower, we haven't came in to put in a bottom base fractal yet. So as we come down, we're trying to adjust to see where the bottom will be put in. I already kind of presume that it's going to be this bottom tail of this Japanese candle, simply by the fact that there has been so much resistance right here through this point. And since it has flipped, this resistance point is now support to push it up. So right here, when it first initially hit it and poked through, boom, it came down, oh, tested it, did a little bit of a shooting star, but it did test and poke a little bit higher, okay? And it's kind of ironic that at this point over here, it is exactly where we're testing. Okay, so the momentum, MACD, moving average, convergence, and divergence has not reversed yet. But again, this is on a week scale. So we're going to go back down to a much tighter frame. This tighter frame is actually a 5-minute chart. If you're going to try to do trade by trade by trade by trade and scalp, drill down and work at a tighter time frame, you'd want to pay close attention to these fractals. And we would look for other supporting elements, such as volume impetus. This is a little bit, the moving average, convergence, and divergence would be able to work. You can see that it converged and diverged here. This is the 13 day. So the slower moving one, this is the longer trailing, and the blue is my 13. It's coming and testing. So you can see that it's got to come up and put a top in. You can see that it put a lower top. Each one of these now, these are their own fractals, but you could also look at this in a much bigger form where we will scale it up and we'll look for a fractal within the fractal. So let me show you what I mean. We can take a brush, and we can see that this comes and it hits this, which comes and hits that. So this almost is its own triangle in and of itself right here. This is kind of a triangle. So if we scaled out, that would become almost its own fractal. See? We can scale it out a little bit more. And boom, there's the fractal. Just delete it now. See? That was the original fractal. And that's the whole point of this Mandelbrot set, is it doesn't matter too much the scale that you look at it in, you will see the same shapes and patterns start to come out. Okay? I hope that that makes sense, because this is an important cornerstone to understanding what doesn't matter if you're looking at a drill down at second by second, or if you're scaled back at weeks. It definitely emotionally is different, but if you can connect and understand this concept and you can find your fractal points, it will make navigating and seeing the charts much simpler.